Okay. Let me go ahead and swear in Detective Sharp. Raise your right hand. You swear from the information given, any testimony provided in the matter of the state versus Rodrigo Nash is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay.
Detective, could you please tell us your name and how you're employed?
Detective Dwayne Sharp with Clayton County Police Department.
How long have you been so employed?
Approximately 5.5 years.
As a Clayton County Police Detective, were you assigned the case involving Rodrigo Nash and a decedent by the name of Katrina Coleman?
I was.
And please tell us what you learned from your investigation regarding these two individuals.
I learned that Mr. Nash and Coleman were friends in the neighborhood, and that according to witnesses that Mr. Nash was a drug dealer, and apparently Miss Coleman had possibly stole from Mr. Nash. That the day of the incident, Mr. Nash came over to
Well, you're breaking up. You're breaking up, Detective. If you can say that last part again, you're breaking up.
Oh, I said that on the day of the incident, Mr.
And what
Nash.
date is that? Tell us what date is that?
The date of the incident is 5/11.
Of 2020?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me 1 second just to confirm. Yes, 5/11.
Okay.
And he went to the address of 2750 Webb Drive, which is the address of a Miss Tubner. While at that address, Miss Coleman and Mr. Nash had a verbal altercation over what Miss Tumbler described to be possible drug related. Later that day, Miss Tubler and Miss Coleman left to go get food, and Miss Coleman dropped Miss Tumbler back off at her residence. When she dropped her off, Miss Tumbler went inside, and moments later, she heard a male outside, and then she heard several gunshots. At which time she goes outside and she doesn't see Miss Coleman anymore. And neighbors called in about a car accident that happened right in front of Miss Tumbler's house. And when EMS arrived, it was Miss Coleman had been shot several times. Her vehicle had approximately 20 semi projectile rounds entered into it, and there were 20-ish shell casings on the ground in front of the location.
Did Ms. Tubner state whether or not she saw anyone outside or recognized any voices outside when she heard the shots?
She did. She stated that she heard a male that sounded had an identical voice as Mr. Nash. She called him Rod. That's the name that she used. We used surveillance in the area, and we were able to observe Mr. Nash's truck come into the neighborhood, and then leave out moments after the gunshots erupted. And you can actually hear the gunshots, which is how you can tell that the gunshots occurred. During the interview with Mr. Nash, he stated that no one drove his truck on that day. So that placed him in the vehicle for us.
Were you able to see, now when you said from the surveillance videos, were these from individual residences or was it from a business? What kind of surveillance?
It was surveillance from a residence. It's a one-way street. That the Webb Drive is a one-way street. Well, it's a dead-end street, shall I say. And once you go down the street, you can't leave out that street. So He goes in, he's down there for several minutes, and then he comes out after the gunshots erupt.
Were there any witnesses to who may have seen the shots come from Mr. Nash's truck?
No.
Were you able to locate any weapons when you spoke with Mr. Nash?
No, I wasn't in that day when the conversation with Mr. Nash transpired, but when we did a vehicle search on Mr. Nash's vehicle, we were unable to locate a firearm. According to family members of Mr. Nash, he told people in his family to take the firearm off the vehicle and remove it prior to turning himself into the police department.
Were you able to get written statements from those individuals regarding Mr. Nash asking them to remove the firearm?
No, I was not.
Were those statements recorded?
Yes. However, it was just a third party that overheard a conversation between the two family members.
Were you able to subsequently interview those family members?
No, they don't want to speak to me.
Did Mr. Nash have any explanation as to why his vehicle was on that street if he indicated no one else had been driving it?
Like I stated during the interview, I wasn't there, so I'm not exactly sure on exactly what he said. But I know that the only thing he did say was that he was the only one that drove that vehicle.
Was Ms. Coleman pronounced dead on the scene, or was she transported with the hopes of a recovery?
I believe she was. I know she was pronounced dead at the hospital. Because I don't think she had any life in her when EMS arrived. If I'm not mistaken.
And the manner of her death?
Gunshot wounds.
Were you able to at some point run the criminal history of Mr. Nash?
I was.
And were you able to determine whether or not he had any prior convictions?
I believe he did. If you give me a moment, I think I may still have a copy of it in the case file. He does have felony, but I do not currently have the criminal history on Mr. Nash in front of me, unfortunately.
Well, as part of your investigation, not asking if you have his criminal history, but did you ask for a warrant to be taken out regarding any convictions?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that conviction for?
That's what I'm trying to find. I
Oh.
don't in front of me, unfortunately.
Do you have a copy of your warrants in front of you? Or
I do. Let me see. It might be on my. Yeah, he was with firearm by felon in Clayton County in 2012.
You were breaking up some, Detective. You can repeat that, please.
He was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon in Clayton County in 2012.
And was he convicted of that?
Yes,
Okay. And what was that charge again?
possession of a firearm felon.
Were you able to determine what type of firearm was used in this particular case, Detective?
No,
So you're breaking up.
a 9mm.
Were shell casings found at the scene?
Yes, approximately 20-ish casings.
Detective, you testified earlier about how Mr. Nash and Ms. Coleman knew each other. How were you able to determine how they knew each other?
That was a statement from Ms. Fuller. She stated that
You're breaking up, Detective. You're breaking up a little bit.
okay. She stated that they all know each other due to all living in the same area, growing up very close to each other.
Was Ms. Tubner, was she present during the, I guess, the argument between Mr. Nash and Ms. Coleman that you stated that had occurred earlier that day?
She was inside the house. And she walked outside and she saw Mr. Nash's vehicle, which she described as a green pickup.
And when Ms. Tubner indicated that she heard a male's voice yelling, this was the same voice that she heard earlier with Mr. Nash?
Yes,
By
because
Mr. Nash?
yes, she's very familiar with Mr. Nash also. Like I said, they all grew up in the same neighborhood. So they all know each other from previous encounters.
Okay. Did this incident happen in Clayton County?
It did.
The accident that you talked about, Detective, how far away was where the car was found from where Ms. Tubner stated that she last saw Ms. Coleman?
It was literally right in front of the front yard, approximately maybe 10, 15 yards.
And and you may have stated this, but just to make sure, because I know some of the parts were broken up. The surveillance video that you were able to review the video?
Yes,
And on the video, can you hear the gunshots?
you can.
The time frame that you heard on the video with the gunshots, does that correspond to the time when Mr. Nash's truck was seen on this street?
Yes.
And after you hear after the gunshots, I'm just trying to be clear, Mr. Nash's truck comes in eye shot of the video.
Yes. The way it occurred is in the video you can see Mr. Nash drive down the street.
Okay.
But then there's another video where you hear the gunshots and you also see Mr. As soon as you hear the gunshots, a couple seconds later you see Mr. Nash driving in the neighborhood.
Wait, you were breaking up a little bit for me. Say that one more time.
Once you hear the gunshot, a couple moments later, you see Mr. Nash driving out of the neighborhood.
Did he appear to be driving at a normal rate of speed?
He seemed to, from the video, it looked like he was driving a little, slightly above the speed limit for that area.
And all of this was in Clayton County.
It was.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay, cross-examination, Attorney Reddick.
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Sharp,
Yes.
I'm gonna jump around a bit. I'm gonna need you to stay with me. Specifically talking about that video from the Ring camera.
Okay.
Are you able to see Mr. Nash's face in the truck?
No, you cannot.
Are you able to see the body style to see if it's a man or a woman?
No.
So when you're saying Mr. Nash's truck, you really mean just a green truck?
I say Mr. Nash's truck, the items that were in the back of the truck, the same items that were in the back of the truck when we located.
Were you able to see the license plate of the truck?
No.
So the only thing you could see is a green truck and stuff in the back.
Correct.
And you would agree with me that that's not the only green truck that was manufactured in that body?
Correct. But the witness also stated that
Breaking up, sir.
Wait, you breaking up?
the witness, Miss stated that Mr. Nash came there with that truck at the same date.
And you just previously told the state that Ms. Tubner didn't actually see the shooting, did she?
No, she did not see the shooting.
And you previously told the state that when she went outside, she didn't see anybody, including the victim, correct?
Correct.
So the green truck on the video is not necessarily the one Ms. Tubner identified at that time, is it?
I can say it's the truck that left the area and came back.
Okay.
Um,
So, I'm sorry, what you say, sir?
There's 4 videos. There's a video of him coming, leaving, coming, and leaving.
All from the same Ring camera?
Yes.
Are those videos time-stamped?
Yes.
Are they black and white or in color?
In color.
So orient me, sir. If you said Webb is a dead end,
Yes.
what's the cross street?
The cross street of Webb. I'm not sure. I'm not that familiar with that area, unfortunately. Let me see if I can tell you real quick though. The cross will be Grant Road.
Grant Road, okay.
Yes.
Now orient us with that house. Where on Webb is the house that had the Ring video? Is at the top of the street or is at closer to the dead end or closer to Grant Road?
It's closer to Grant Road.
Okay. Does the house face Grant Road or does it face Webb?
It faces Webb Road.
So it picks up everything coming in
Yes.
and it'll pick up everything going out?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other cars coming in other than this green truck?
There is a white Camaro, which also is stated by family members that was driven by Mr. Nash's cousin.
Did that Camaro come in before or after the shooting?
It comes in before the shooting and leaves out right before the shooting.
And did anybody get the Camaro? Did y'all bring any information on the Camaro?
No, I still figure out the family member Camaro.
You're breaking up, sir. I'm sorry.
I can't find which family members driving the Camaro.
Well, I missed that last part.
I think we all did.
No, I can't figure out which family member is driving.
You can't figure out which family member was driving the Camaro.
Yes, who owns the Camaro?
Who owned the Camaro?
Yes,
So you don't know who owned the Camaro and you don't know
Correct.
who was driving at that time.
correct,
Okay. But that Camaro pulled into the block prior to the shooting.
yes, and it leaves before the shooting occurred.
Oh, that was different. But I asked specifically, was it there before the shooting?
Yeah,
And
yeah, it leaves before.
it leaves before the shooting,
Yes,
but you're not able to tell whether someone gets in or out of that car and stays on the block.
correct,
Okay. And Ms. Tubner couldn't tell you whether or not she saw somebody stay on the block.
correct.
Okay. Now, where does Ms. Tubner house sits on Webb in relation to where the ring thing is?
Um, it's less than a quarter of a mile. It's
Okay,
close.
can you tell me how many houses that would be? Because my distance ain't that great.
Ooh, on that street, it's sort of Archdale. It's a sort of old neighborhood. I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 houses.
Okay. So 4 or 5 houses, but she's not the very last house on the street, is she?
No,
Okay. So when you were talking about your ring video, does it capture the Miss Coleman's car coming in?
yes,
Okay. So we can actually see at a minimum of 3 cars on this video coming into the neighborhood and only
Correct.
2 cars leaving.
correct.
No additional cars coming in and out.
No,
No people
Not-
walking in.
that I can think of off the top of my head. Those are the only 3 I was looking at.
Okay. Is it able to see people walking in and out?
No,
Okay. Now, you were saying when you spoke to the state that there were witnesses?
yes.
Who were the witnesses?
In reference to which part? I'm sorry.
Let me start from the beginning. Witnesses to the initial conversation, argument that you said,
That
Mr.
that, that would be Miss Tumder.
The only witness?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What other witnesses were you referring to? What are the other witnesses you referring to?
The witness of one of Mr. Ash's family members.
What's
Well,
their,
close friends, shall we say?
what's their name?
Uh, you give me one moment. I'm sorry. I'm trying to locate it.
Well, you sound much clearer now. Maybe you need to stay in that position.
I'm gonna try not to move. How about that?
Thank you.
It is actually in this phone. The person's information is in the phone that I'm on right now, unfortunately.
So what does that mean? You can't pull up the contacts and see the name?
Yeah, I can. I'm just gonna give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Do we know what happened?
I'm trying to get that person's name, Your Honor.
Okay, okay, okay.
All right. So that name and the information is actually on my desk at the office. I don't have it with me. I thought I took a picture of the information, but I jotted it down. I was listening to the recording.
What recording were you listening to?
The interview with his family member. He refers to him as his stepfather. He refers to himself as a stepfather.
And that recording, is it saved somewhere else other than on your phone?
Yes. It's
Okay.
it's on my computer.
And have you burned that to a disk or some other format that can be served on defense?
Yes, I'm working on that. That's the object of today. That's many things I have to do today.
Okay, so we gonna memorialize this. So if it suddenly goes missing, Detective Shaw.
I got you.
Okay. And that was an interview with someone who said that Mr. Nash was his stepfather?
He says he raised him like he was his father. I'm assuming that him and his mom are.
You said you weren't gonna move, Detective Sharp.
You said what? I
Okay.
moved on. He said that he raised him like he was his father.
Raised him like he was his father.
Yes.
You would agree with me that this person was a male?
Yes, it was. Yes.
About what age?
I want to say late 50s.
Wait, Mr. Nash raised somebody named David?
No. The male raised Mr. Nash. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, okay. So the person on this recording that's on your phone, i.e. desktop, that you're gonna put on the disk to turn over, says that he raised Mr. Nash like Mr. Nash was his child.
Yes.
And this gentleman is in his 50s.
Yes.
Does he live in that neighborhood?
No, he does not.
Was he there on that day?
No, he was not.
What information did he witness?
He witnessed the conversation between Mr. Nash's mother and Mr. Nash's aunt. Over the
conversation with Mr. Nash.
No. It was in reference to the actual shooting and the evidence that was being moved around They said that the person in the white Camaro took the firearm, that the vehicle was stored in Greenbrier, and it was a long conversation.
But this person wasn't even involved in that long conversation. He was in fact here hustling.
Yes,
And Mr. Nash wasn't even involved in that conversation.
correct.
Did you ever talk to the two people that were having the conversation at the stepdaddy?
They both don't want to speak to me.
So we have no corroboration to this.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So going back to Ms. Tubner,
Yes.
she indicated that she heard Mr. Coleman and Miss Coleman and Mr. Nash having an altercation or argument on her front porch.
Yes.
Did she tell you the details of that argument?
She stated that the only thing that she heard specifically was, excuse my terms, but bitch, give me my, and then she heard several gunshots.
No. Okay, let's back the bus up. So the first it was my understanding when you were on direct that you told Ms. Freeman that
Yes.
Mr. Nash and Ms. Coleman had an argument that Ms. Tubner came outside for.
Yes. That argument was over possibly Mr. Nash and Ms. Coleman possibly being in a relationship of some sort. And it was basically, from what she described to me, it sounded like it was more of a domestic over anything.
Okay, so Ms. Tubner's in her house.
Yes.
She hears voices outside.
Yes.
She walks outside.
Yes.
What time of day was it? Was it daytime or nighttime?
It was still daytime.
She comes outside daytime, sees Mr. Nash, Ms. Coleman.
Yes.
Thinks it's a domestic dispute.
Yes.
Her and Ms. Coleman leave.
Yes.
Mr. Nash leaves.
Yes.
Ms. Coleman is alive.
Correct.
At that time, did she say, I saw Mr. Nash with a gun?
No.
Okay. He goes on about his business. They go wherever they go.
Yes.
The two ladies come back.
Correct.
By what time of day was that?
It was still daytime. I don't have an exact time with me. It was moments after the gunshots though, so we can say approximately.
It was moments after or moments before?
What, the time that they came back to the house?
Yes.
Moments before. I'm
Okay.
sorry. It was approximately 3 o'clock, 3:15 ish.
In the afternoon.
Yes.
They pull up to Ms. Tubner's house.
Correct.
Ms. Tubner gets out the car.
Correct.
What does Ms. Coleman do? Does she sit out front? Does she start to drive? What happens?
Ms. Coleman, Ms. Tumblr stated that Ms. Tumblr stated that she went into the house. She states that she gets out the house, she goes in the house. While she's in the house, she hears a male voice that she described. Ron state.
In and out again, Detective Sharp.
The male stated, bitch, give me my, and then she started hearing the gunshots, at which time she comes outside.
Okay, so we're gonna slow that down.
Okay.
You got me ahead of me. Ms. Tubner goes in her house.
Yes.
When she goes in her house, does she remain at the front door or does she walk somewhere else in the house? Do you know?
She walks to the basement, she stated.
So she goes underground.
It's a split level, so it's still above ground.
Okay, but she's not at the front door.
Correct.
She didn't tell you she was standing at a window seat.
No, but the way her house is set up and the way Miss Coleman's vehicle was parked, it was parked right in front of the wall that she was next to. The exterior wall and the portion of the house that Miss Coleman was at, I mean Miss Tumblr was at,
Oh,
were
God.
did I break up?
Yeah.
All right.
You don't want to go stand outside and do like this with your phone? So we can hear you?
Unfortunately, I can't. It ain't gonna work. I live in the country. But it's just a small dividing wall between them two. Between
Tubner was on the other side of the dividing wall.
yes, Tubner
Okay.
was on the side and Miss Coleman was on the other side.
So, and that's your belief, but you don't have any evidence of that because she didn't see where they were.
Correct.
Okay. So she's in her house. How long did she tell you she was in her house before she heard shots?
She said maybe 3 to 4. She said 3 to 4 minutes.
3 to 4 minutes
Yes.
before she heard the shots.
Yes.
Here's the shot. She runs up from the basement,
Yes.
goes outside,
Yes.
doesn't see the victim's car,
Correct.
doesn't see Mr. Nash.
Correct.
Did she tell you at any point she saw Mr. Nash's car in the neighborhood when they came back?
No.
Did she say anything about seeing a white Camaro when she came back?
No.
Did you ask her if anybody else had issues with Miss Coleman that she had argued with earlier in the day?
I did. She stated that she had no problems with anyone at that time.
At that time?
Yes.
Did she say any other time she may have had problems with anyone else?
No.
Miss Tubner is not related to Mr. Nash, is she?
No.
Did she tell you she was one of his potential clients for drug transactions as well?
No, she did not.
You did not. All right. Did you check with anybody else in the neighborhood?
I did. I asked everyone in the neighborhood if you say check with them in reference to what?
This incident.
Huh? Oh, yes.
The murder we talking about, that's all. I mean,
I'm like, wait, check for what? But I checked all the surrounding houses. No one was home at the time of the actual incident.
no one was home,
Correct.
even though we're in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah.
All right. No one else had video?
No, only one video.
Who made the 911 call?
It was one. Actually, that was the only person it was one person. I'm sorry, it was one person home. That was the only person that was home. And the only thing she did was she saw the accident. I don't have that person's name. I don't have the 911 call.
Okay, did you interview that person?
I believe one of my fellow detectives did.
How many other detectives were involved in this case?
3 to 4 approximately.
Okay, be more specific. Who interviewed Mr. Nash?
It was Captain Ricks and Lieutenant McKay.
Who interviewed the 911 caller?
I do not know that. It's not in my case file as of yet.
Would it have been a recorded interview?
If it was recorded, it was probably involving a road officer.
A what officer?
A road officer, a patrolman.
Not rogue, road.
Road.
Oh, okay, a patrolman. Okay.
Yeah.
Would that information be contained in the incident report?
It's not in the incident report. I just looked at it.
Is there a supplement to the incident report?
Not that I know of.
Can we get a supplement to get that information in the incident report?
I can contact them and get them to do that.
Thank you. So we have someone speaking to the 911 caller, getting information.
Correct. They said that it was a vehicle accident. That's what units responded to.
So the 911 caller didn't say anything about a gunshots?
No. They said a vehicle accident with injuries.
Did they give way about how far they were from the accident?
No, that's all I have on the incident report is units responded to an accident involving injuries.
Were you the lead detective on this?
I was.
Okay. Are you still the lead detective on this?
Yes.
All right. So now going to your shell cases, you said about 20 shell cases?
Correct.
All 9mm?
Yes.
How familiar are you with 9mm weapons?
Somewhat.
How many do you have a 9mm as your service weapon?
I do.
How many rounds does your service weapon hold?
I believe it holds 17, I believe.
17 plus 1 in the chamber, or 17 total?
17 plus 1 in the chamber, which make it 18.
18. So have you had experience to find a clip that holds more than 20 rounds?
I did find one firearm that does. There are magazines that are extended that could hold additional rounds. You can purchase one. It's just a longer magazine.
About that long, right?
Yeah.
Any evidence to suggest that the ear hustling conversation mentioned having a longer magazine on the gun that they miraculously disposed of?
No.
Okay. Did you see the recovered casings?
Yes.
Were they all from the same manufacturer?
There were so many of them. I do not recall. I believe they were, but I'm not gonna say definitively it was.
And it's possible that it could have been more than one gun out there, correct?
Possibly.
Okay. No, but no other witnesses to the gunshots other than Ms. Tubman.
Correct.
Okay. Well, and then the victim having bullet holes in her car.
Correct.
Okay. And you said that Ms. Tubman indicated that Mr. Nash and Ms. Coleman and she knew themselves from the neighborhood, growing up in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. And the initial argument per Ms. Tubman seemed to be a domestic dispute, not necessarily over drugs.
Correct.
And then what makes you say that the second voice that she heard in the altercation was over drugs when all she said she heard was, "You gonna give me mine," and it wasn't even a completed statement?
Because the fact that due to Miss Coleman, a crack pipe, if you will, was located in Miss Coleman's vehicle, along with Miss Tumblr stating that Mr. Nash is a drug dealer. And according to his stepfather, the male that states he's a stepfather.
No, he was almost about to give us the name while you pulled up. He was about to give us the name and then you pulled up. Don't do that, Detective Shaw. Finish the name. Mr. What?
No, I don't have the name. Not with me, unfortunately. According to what the male is stating, that he states that Mr. Nash is a drug dealer and he sells crack cocaine.
And this is the same gentleman who heard a conversation between two people not involving Mr. Nash.
Correct.
Who now don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
That you can't give me the name of today.
Correct.
Okay. So now, you said there's a crack pipe found in Ms. Coleman's car. Whereabouts in the car was it?
I believe it was in her purse, or it was in one of the on the floorboard.
But okay, it was in her purse or on the floorboards.
Correct.
And was there any toxicology submitted?
I have not submitted an intox for her.
Is that part of your further ongoing investigation?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Now you said that when you saw the truck, this green truck leaving, it was only going slightly above the speed limit.
Yes, I can't determine speed just by looking at a vehicle. I'm not a traffic officer, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, you would agree with me that there were no skid marks on the ground, were there?
No.
And you agree with me that Ms. Tubman didn't say she heard tires screeching out, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree with me that the 911 caller didn't. Well, let me just say, did you hear the 911?
I have not.
All right then. But from the evidence you currently have, there's no indication that no one peeled out of.
Correct.
Okay. And you would agree with me that if you had just shot somebody, you got out, you'd probably holler tires and.
You said if I shot someone,
Yes.
I'm not a violent person, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, you pulled Mr. Nash's GCIC, correct?
Yes.
Was there any indication that he had any prior violent felonies on it?
He did have possession of a firearm, and he did have some violent history.
Which is what?
Like I said, I don't have the criminal history in front of me.
Would you like to see my copy?
Is there a way you can show it to me?
I'm gonna, wait, let me.
Hold on. You don't have
I'm
to.
trying
You
to
don't have
understand the
to.
relevance.
There is no relevance.
Okay.
There is no relevance to this. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Would you also agree with me that Mr. Nash's prior history was significantly more drug-related than it was violent-related?
I'm gonna object also, that's not relevant.
I sustain.
So you indicated that there are 4 videos. How did we get to 4 different videos? It's not one continuous stream of videos?
So the way that their ring is set up, it's it only recorded I believe it only recorded when motion went by.
Went by the door.
Yeah.
So having Ms. Tubner's house be 4 doors down, there's no way to indicate that there was an action between those 4 houses and that front door, correct?
Correct.
There's no indication that someone came out of, that you can't say with any certainty that someone didn't come out of one of those 4 houses and actually do this to Ms. Bowman, correct?
Correct.
And there's no indication that someone didn't retreat into one of those 4 houses during this incident, correct?
Well, officers checked. There's one abandoned one, and they knocked on all doors. No one was in the abandoned one, and no one answered the other one besides
No
the
one
caller.
answered, but there's no way to say certainly that no one was home.
Correct.
Okay. So then your ring video is motion activated. So it should, did y'all ask for the videos for the entire day or just for a very discrete, specific amount of time?
The owner of the ring only wanted to provide for that one specific time.
Do you have the owner, you have the house address for where the ring is located?
Yes. Would you like that?
Yes, what is the address?
Give me one moment.
Did we lose him?
I don't even
I
know.
was about to say.
I don't see him on the screen.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's not trying to get back in yet. You want to call him?
Yes, that's because I said, wait a minute, what happened?
He's coming back
Oh,
in.
he's coming back, okay.
Mhm.
We can't hear you.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. That address is 2966 Web Drive.
And I won't ask because of what we're on, but is the homeowner's information contained in the report?
In where? In what?
In your report, the name of the homeowner and their contact information, is that in your?
The witness, the one that provided,
Let's do what now?
the person that provided the information. Yes, their information is in there. Yes,
Are they different from the homeowner?
they're renting. So yes.
Okay, so there's a renter's information. And then okay, so I need that, but I also want to know if you in fact had the homeowner's information.
But I can.
I'm sorry, say what?
I said I do not.
Okay, okay. Is further investigation still going on in this case?
It is, and there's only one house between the house that the
I don't think the court reporter can hear you, so that's
Yeah,
what
you
she
keep
comes on,
breaking up.
she's not able to hear you.
I said that there's only one house between the two houses,
Which two houses?
between the incident location and the house that the shooting occurred. One house between Miss Tumbler's house and the house that the video was obtained. There's only one house between.
And then how many houses between there and the 911 caller?
Like I said, I still don't have the 911 caller's information in the code in the report.
Oh, okay. So it went from 4 houses to a smaller area, 1 house.
Yes, just one house. It's a large area.
But it's a large area, it's just not a lot of houses.
Yes,
Would you say it's a block or half a block?
it's maybe a quarter of a block.
Quarter of a block, okay. Let me help myself with this. Did you have crime scene come out crime scene techs come out?
I did.
Did they take photographs of the area?
Did photographs, and they did I forgot the other thing, the 3D mapping.
I'm sorry.
They did 3D mapping also. I forgot what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is all that information that you're turning over to the DA's office?
Yes.
Thank you. No additional questions.
Any redirect, Attorney Freeman?
I don't. Just a minute, Your Honor. I guess just because I couldn't understand, you testified about a Camaro.
Yes.
How did the Camaro play into this?
That is Mr. Nash's cousin. According to the male that raised Mr. Nash, and that is also the person that took the firearms and hid them.
Was this Camaro seen on this Ring video?
Yes.
So, and I guess I'm trying to understand. So is it alleged that right after the shooting that the gun was turned over to the cousin who then left with the gun?
No, from my understanding, the Mr. Nash left with the firearm. And then he drove downtown where he threw his phone out of the vehicle. And then he parked his vehicle in the College Park Greenbrier area. And that's when he called his cousin and told him to go and get all the firearms.
When you say to go and get all of the firearms from where?
From their residence.
Okay.
Yes.
So did Mr. Nash or the cousin reside on this street where the shooting took place?
It's the next street over.
Okay, so would a person have to drive on this street to get to their residence?
No,
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand, and maybe I didn't hear it correctly. You're saying that the Camaro was seen on the video, right?
correct, correct.
So does that have any, I guess, relation to the shooting?
No,
What we saying?
it's just the fact that that's whoever the owner of that vehicle is possibly the one that has the firearm.
Okay, but so you're not saying that the Camaro had anything to do with the shooting?
Correct.
Okay, and also was the Camaro, was this on one of the videos from that same date of May 11th of 2020?
Yes.
Was the Camaro seen before the shooting or after the shooting?
It was seen before the shooting.
Before the shooting. Do you recall how, I guess, how much time had elapsed between when that Camaro was seen and in the shooting?
I do not recall off the top of my head. I know it's minutes, though. It's not an extended period of time.
Was the Camaro, I guess, was the Camaro on this street the same time Mr. Nash's truck was?
Yes, actually, the Camaro, in one video, you can see the Camaro trailing right behind Mr. Nash.
During your investigation, detective, did you interview the cousin?
No, no one in the family wants to talk to me.
Were you able to confirm whether or not this Camaro did in fact belong to the cousin of Mr. Nash?
That's just what the male that described himself as Mr. Nash's stepfather stated.
Okay, so he's saying that the owner of the Camaro or the driver of the Camaro is the cousin.
Correct.
Okay. And the cousin is who you're saying will not speak to you.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm still trying to locate who that cousin is.
Okay, I understand. Were you able to get, and I certainly apologize if Ms. Reddick asked you this question, but were you able to get a license tag number off of the Camaro?
No, not in that video.
Okay. Okay, I believe that's all I have, Your Honor.
Any recross, Attorney Reddick?
Yes, Your Honor. DA Freeman opened up a bunch of stuff I need to get into. Thank you, ma'am. So Detective Sharp, you indicated that your understanding of the sequence of events that Mr. Nash threw his phone somewhere.
Yes.
Any witnesses to that?
No, because he did it once the incident occurred, once the shooting occurred, we did a search warrant for Mr. Nash's cell phone. Am I breaking up?
You were.
Mhm.
Oh, we did a search warrant on Mr. Nash's cell phone, and we were using GPS tracking on it, and at which time the GPS tracking turned off, and it turned back on in the middle of the night, i.e. sort of somewhat daytime-ish, and that's when the construction crew located it.
But other than that, so the phone told you it was thrown?
No, the damage to the phone.
Told you that it was thrown by Mr. Nash?
No, that it was left on the road behind a construction zone, so it had to be thrown over a fence.
It had to be thrown over a fence?
Yes.
And unless what? I'm sorry.
Unless someone walked behind the fence and dropped it.
So you don't know how the phone got over the fence, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know with any certainty that Mr. Nash is the person that threw it over the fence, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So then you also said that it was your understanding that Mr. Nash parked his car and called this mystery cousin, correct?
Yes.
No eyewitnesses to that either?
No.
And you said it was at Greenbrier Mall?
Yes. It was Greenbrier area. Greenbrier area.
See what now?
Greenbrier area.
Greenbrier area, whereabouts?
I don't have the case file with me. Give me a second. It was located in his Mr. Nash's aunt's apartment area in Greenbrier.
So he didn't in fact ditch the car, he took it to somewhere where he had family members.
And he called the aunt and told her to get the fire vehicle. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna take it piece by piece, Detective Sharp.
Okay.
Mr. Nash parked his car in a place where he had family members,
Correct.
which is not unusual for someone to visit their family members, correct?
Yes.
So his parking the car in the apartment building of his aunt's home is not so much a ditching as you initially referred it to, but it's parking it by his aunt's house, correct?
Correct.
And then this phone call that you say he made to the aunt, did you talk to the aunt?
I talked to the aunt. I asked aunt if she has seen Mr. Nash. And she politely stated no, and I'm not coming in to talk to you.
So then you don't know the contents of the phone call between her and Mr. Nash, correct?
Correct.
You going off this 50-some-odd-year-old man who says he was the stepfather of Mr. Nash, correct?
Correct.
Who won't even talk to you anymore at this time, correct?
He probably will if I reach out. I have not reached out to him since our initial conversation.
Do you intend to reach out to him again?
Yes.
Okay. But at this point, all this information about the throwing the phone and ditching the car and all this other stuff is coming from somebody who wasn't even directly told it by Mr. Nash, correct?
Correct.
He heard two other people talking about it, correct?
Correct.
And neither of the two people that may have been party to the initial conversation has spoken to you, correct?
Correct.
Now you indicated that, and I just want to be clear on the sequence of the cars going into the neighborhood. Is
Okay.
your testimony that at some point Ms. Coleman's car goes in,
Correct.
and then at some point a green truck goes in,
Correct.
and then behind the green truck goes a white Camaro.
Correct.
Then Camaro comes out.
The Camaro comes out by itself.
Yeah, that's why I said then the Camaro comes out.
Yes.
Then the green truck comes out.
There's the way the videos are, from my understanding, it's Miss Coleman.
Comes out the neighborhood?
No, comes in.
Oh, okay.
Comes in. Mr. Nash comes in. Miss Coleman leaves. Well, I believe Miss Coleman leaves or Mr. Nash leaves, but they leave. Then Mr. Nash comes back, followed behind the white Camaro. Then Miss Coleman comes in. White Camaro leaves. And then Mr. Nash leaves.
So Mr. Nash was in the, so now your testimony is Mr. Nash was in the neighborhood before Miss Coleman came back.
Yes, he leaves he leaves 2 to 3 times, I believe. I have to look at the video one more time, which will be on Avail or a disc for you today.
Thank you. So I want to just kind of focus you on right around the shooting time.
Okay.
Was Mr. Nash, well, excuse me, was the green truck in the neighborhood before the shooting?
Yes.
So it didn't, and wait, on this one-way street, the green truck was on the one-way street before the shooting.
Correct.
And Ms. Tubner didn't say she saw it on the street before the shooting.
Correct. Because she doesn't live at the end of the street. There's actually at the end of the street, there's a turn you can make, which leads you to a dead end.
Okay, so now I'm beyond confused because
It's
initially,
an L-shaped street.
okay, so let's back that up because initially you told Ms. Freeman that Webb Drive is a dead end. When you say a dead end to me, I think you come in and it stops. That's not what you're saying now. It doesn't come in and it stops. It comes in, it turns, and then it stops.
Yes, it's not a straight shot street. It's a dead end, but it left or right, depending on who's looking at it.
Say what now?
It's an L-shaped street.
Okay, so I'm gonna draw on a piece of paper because I'm a bit slow.
You want me to show you a picture of the map?
Oh, you have that?
Can you see that?
No, I can't.
You can't see that? Okay.
Okay, so wait, the pin where you dropped the pin, what was that?
Yes, that's Webb Drive.
Okay, but is that somebody's address on Webb Drive or is just Webb Drive, period?
That's just Webb Drive, period.
So Ms. Tubner's house is to, how close is it to the hook in the road?
Looking at it, it's right around that area where the pin is.
Okay,
Somewhere around.
so when the road curved, did y'all bother to go back there and canvass that area to see if anybody heard shots?
I believe the road did. The road should have.
The road asked people for questions?
No, they canvass areas before we get there typically.
The road officers, not the road but the road
Road
officers.
patrolman. I'll use the
Thank
term
you, Judge. Thank you, Judge.
patrolman.
So the patrolman went down there and canvassed that area for witnesses.
Yes.
And they didn't get any evidence that they heard 20 or so shots, anybody down there.
Correct.
How far is Ms. Tubner's home from where the road begins to curve?
If you give me a second, I can give you an approximate distance.
Is she right at the curve or is she before the curve?
It's before the curve, way before the curve.
Way before the curve, okay.
Yes.
And the shooting, is it your position the shooting happened in front of her home or is it your position the shooting in front of the ring home?
The shooting happened in Miss Tubner's driveway. All the shell cases were in the driveway.
Wait, okay. So now whoever what the shooter was standing in Ms. Tubner's driveway?
Correct.
And they would have been facing the street.
The road. Yes, they were facing the street. They were shooting at the driver's side of the vehicle as the vehicle left because the shell casings make a trail towards the street.
Is it indicative of a person walking or a person riding?
A person walking.
Okay. Any evidence from Ms. Tubner that she heard a car door open or close before the shooting?
No.
Any evidence from Ms. Tubner that she heard anybody pulling her driveway before the shooting?
No.
So based on the evidence you have presented today, it's your position that Mr. Nash drove into this neighborhood. Oh, excuse me, was already in the neighborhood, correct?
Possibly drove into the neighborhood.
Before
Waited.
Ms. Coleman.
What was that? I'm sorry, broke up.
Before Ms. Coleman.
Yes.
Gets out, stays in or gets out his car, we don't know. Ms. Tubner goes inside, correct?
Correct.
At some point after Ms. Tubner goes inside, Mr. Nash gets out of his car and stands in Ms. Tubner's driveway.
Correct.
And fires 20 or so shots.
Correct.
Gets back in his car.
Correct.
And then drives a little bit above the speed limit out the neighborhood.
Correct.
And Ms. Tupner at no point saw Mr. Nash before the shooting, immediately before the shooting.
Correct.
And no point did she see his truck immediately before the shooting.
Correct.
She didn't see the shooting.
Correct.
She didn't hear nobody opening and closing no car doors.
Correct. But she heard a voice that sounded as Mr. Nash.
She heard a voice.
Yes.
Did she say she heard that voice in her driveway?
I don't think she can specifically say that it was in her driveway, but she said that it was in front of her house.
In front of her house,
Yes.
which could go from one end of the house to wherever the driveway, the other end of the house.
Yes.
Okay. Are you gonna put that map in evidence, please? And thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. No additional questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor, no further questions.
Okay.
State
Any
rep.
other witnesses? State rest. Any witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Argument?
The state waives opening.
Your Honor, because the defense recognizes that the standard for a preliminary hearing is so low, we are going to submit, we believe the court could find sufficient probable cause at this time. Your Honor.
Okay, all right. All right, so that's gonna go up to Superior Court of Clayton County, all three charges: possession of firearm by convicted felon, possession of firearm during commission of a felony, and malice murder. All three charges will go up to Superior Court of Clayton County. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Ms. Reddick, are you keeping this on the bond calendar on Friday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank
you.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
approve Mr. Nash. Okay.
Your Honor, I think that's our last case.
it is.
Judge, I
Yes,
have.
I'm gonna come off YouTube.